I can't wait to make this a podcast later. That's going to be a little bit of editing involved, but again, that's how I roll. So welcome everybody to the show. As always, it's Friday night. We've got Hometown Ghost Stories joining us. They are, of course, a YouTube channel and a podcast. And the three gentlemen are Jesse Wilkins, Rob Coakley, and Dave Wilkins. They're going to be here with us throughout the 2-hour journey tonight. And we're going to dig into their stories, their experiences, what drove them to create Hometown Ghost Stories, and also talk about some of their investigations. These guys are actually getting out there and they're doing the work. So it's going to be an epic journey. So hope you all are ready. We're going in. Let's get them on screen here so you can meet them in person. And if you haven't checked out their channel, please do. I was recently a guest on their show, and I'm here to tell you, these guys are doing it right. In fact, they're doing it so right, I feel like I need to learn from them because they've really got it nailed down and they're doing a hell of a job. So without further ado, let's get them on. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad we got everybody connected. It was like I forget the Chinese fire drill or something. If that's not, yeah. am I being insensitive here? My wife is Asian, so, but so glad you guys are here. Thank you guys for joining us as always. I don't do a lot of guests on the live show, but I had such a great time with you guys on your show. I'm like, yeah, you guys have got to come on. This will be awesome. And, of course, when I was on your show, we talked about the Queen Mary, the haunted vessel over in California. And I came to know a lot about you guys as far as you're getting out there. You're doing the research. You're doing these epic shows, amazingly well put together. You're doing a podcast. So you have a YouTube channel, a podcast. You're getting out there and investigating. You guys are really rolling deep on this. That's amazing.
We're doing everything.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're doing everything, but we love it. It's a lot of fun. We've met a lot of great people, including yourself, and you don't have much to learn from us at all. You have a black hat on, and that's pretty much all you need in order to do these ghost shows.
That's where I'm part of the club then, right? I'm grandfathered in. Good.
That exactly.
So if you don't mind me asking, and I don't, whoever wants to go first, or if you all have a joint story, or if you have individual stories, feel free, whomever, to go first. But what led you to this place to decide we got to do this? Was there events that you guys experienced a young age, all your life? What was the genesis of all this?
Do you guys want me to go first on this one?
Well, it does start with Rob. I mean, we were all involved in the story as well, but it does start all back on that house on North Street.
Yeah. So I grew up in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, which a lot of your listeners will probably know the Bridgewater Triangle, right? So yeah. I am in the heart of the Bridgewater Triangle, and Dave and Jesse are from around here as well. And my grandparents purchased the house in 1968 in Bridgewater. Oh. And we found out later about some of the history of that house, but my first paranormal experience wasn't even my own paranormal experience. It was my little brother's experience. So when I was about 8 years old, my little brother was 2, and middle of the day, he was supposed to be upstairs taking a nap. I'm downstairs with my mother doing whatever. We're the only 3 in the house, and we hear him start screaming from upstairs.
Oof.
We're not too alarmed because this is a kid that got into everything. So we assumed he just like fell or like hurt himself somehow. So we run upstairs to assist him to see what he's doing, to make sure he's okay. And he's literally in the back of his back is up against the corner of one of the hallway corners. And he's as pale as a ghost. He's like white. And he's just pointing, going, "The man, mummy, the man, mummy, the man," over and over and over again. And it was terrifying. And then I started talking to my grandmother about the house, and she had talked about how she heard voices and stuff like that in the house, and some other stories came out. And a few years later, when the internet became such a, the internet was around then, but when it became more accessible and we started having it more and more in the house, I started looking into stories from Bridgewater, and I found out that house used to be a farm, and weirdly it was called the Oakley farm. And my last name's Coakley, but there's no like relation to that. Okay. Later I can bring out, I found a sign. I'll tell you about that in a bit. But so the farmer of that original house, his cow used to get out all the time, and he would go chase down his cow and bring it back to the house. And one night his cow gets out, he goes to get the cow, and he never comes back.
Oh, geez.
And 2 days later, the Bridgewater Enterprise is there. They're interviewing, I think it was his nephew. And while they're interviewing him, out of the woods, because there used to be a bunch of woods in the back, the dog came out, and the nephew was like, "There's the dog." And then right behind the dog was the cow. And they were like, "Oh, there's the cow. My uncle must be right behind him." But the uncle never came out, and they never found the uncle's body at all. So we're pretty sure that would be the person haunting the house, although I can't confirm that by any means, obviously. So we think that his spirit is haunting the house. And basically with Jesse and Dave, what ended up happening was when my grandfather started to get sick a number of years ago, probably 10, 11 years ago at this point, this house is so old that the only heating system for it at the time was a wooden stove.
Oh.
And we're in Massachusetts. So, like during the winter, you have to keep that wood stove going. So when he got sick, him and my grandmother had to move in with my aunt. And while they were there, somebody had to be in the house. And unfortunately, being young and single, I got stuck with the duty of living in that house for 2 years. And as soon as I moved in, within a few days, as I always hated being in that house, stuff started happening, and I started telling Dave and Jesse, and they would come over, and we all collectively had some crazy experiences together.
Wow. So Jesse, what was your experiences?
So we spent a few nights at Rob. I mean, more than a few nights at Rob's house. I mean, we were real good friends at the time, but one
Not
night
anymore. We hate each other now.
Yeah, now it's a mixed friendship and work. It doesn't pan out. Anyways, I remember one night in particular is the craziest of nights because we were we were going over there all the time, and it was more of like a party atmosphere. We'd bring over a lot of people, and we're like, all right, let's go rile up the ghosts or whatever. We'd go up into the attic, which seemed to be the most active spot, shut off all the lights and look around, and we would just experience a ton of paranormal activity. We did EVP sessions, we did spirit box sessions, we did the old flashlight trick where you kind of unscrew a flashlight just enough where electricity can jump and then see if it responds to your questions by turning on and off. Not only did it turn on and off all the time in response to your questions, but on one night in particular, while we were filming, actually, the whole flashlight exploded, like just batteries went flying across the room and everything, where everyone freaked out. It was absolutely terrifying. Again, it's the flashlight trick. You never really know if this is just electricity being electricity or if it could be something paranormal. But the fact that it was replying to questions and turning on and off on command, like it entertained everyone in the room, to say the least. But there was one night in particular, I remember it was a blizzard, and me and the now wife, then girlfriend at the time, we're at home and we're like, okay, there's going to be a blizzard. It was a huge one a few years back. I don't know if it would have affected you, but in Massachusetts, it was massive, like most snow I've ever seen. But we knew it was coming. So we're like, okay, do we want to lose electricity at home, or should we just go to Rob's and lose electricity there since he has a wood stove in the house? We're like, all right, let's go to Rob's. He has a stove, at least we'll keep warm. It'll be fun. We'll just get snowed in together, then shovel our way out eventually. So we go there, and during the night, this is when we got most activity. And it started with bangs upstairs and knocks, and we're all like, oh boy. And as the night went on, it just got more and more active. And then it was one point we're all laying down, getting ready to go to bed, and we hear the distinct sound of footsteps. And it wasn't just a couple footsteps. It was footsteps that we could hear go down the hallway and then take a right into one of the bedrooms. Just boom, 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 boom. And it was just like the most clear sound ever, that somebody is walking right above us. And absolutely every single one of us heard it. We all turned to each other. We're like, oh boy. Yeah, we all heard that. And that was the point where, for me, it went from, this is fun, let's see if we get a flashlight to turn on, to, oh my God, there's actually a ghost in this house. And we all heard it. And then we also had our dog at the time, Max. He would go in the house and he would just sit at the bottom of the stairs, and he refused to go upstairs. And as we did so many investigations here, we learned that it was the second floor that was really, really creepy, and it was the attic that we got the most paranormal activity. But nothing made me feel more unsafe than the second floor of that house. And the dog refused to go upstairs. Wow. He would just stand there at the bottom of the stairs and bark up the stairs. We're like, what are you barking at? What are you barking at? And we all knew, I mean, that he sees something that we can't see.
And that wasn't the only dog that did that there. Almost every dog that ever went to the house did the same thing at that staircase.
Yikes. What about you, Dave? What was your experiences with all this? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
We'll let Dave figure that out. And as soon as he
there
does,
you go. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Well, while he's figuring that out, I can tell the other story the scariest story for me. Anyways. So one night, Jesse, he used to DJ, he still does occasionally, but I would go out to some of his events with him. And one night I went out to hang out with him while he was working. And I came home, hadn't drank anything at all that night, was completely sober. It's like 1 a.m. or something like that. And I was so scared of the second floor of this house that there was a living room that had like a divider in the middle so that you could split it into 2 living rooms, kind of, or like a dining room or something like that. I turned one of those into my bedroom because I did not want to stay on the second floor. Yeah. So I came in, I went to the bedroom, I went to the bathroom to get ready, and I hear a conversation, which is fine because I leave my TV on. To this day, I leave my bedroom TV on. It's just something I've always done. So while I'm brushing my teeth and getting ready for bed, I hear this conversation. It doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not really listening to context. I leave the bathroom, I go into the bedroom, and I look, and the TV is off. And as soon as I notice the TV's off, the voices stop. And I stand there for about 2 seconds. And then from the top of the stairs, which was right behind me from the doorway of the bedroom, I hear 3 or 4 words yelled down. And I don't know what they said because I was just in such utter shock. And like, I still get goosebumps telling this story because this is like the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. And we've had some stuff happen since we started the show that I just stood there like stunned and I didn't know what to do.
Right.
It's like 1 a.m, 2 a.m. It's like, do you go to a hotel? Like, do you leave the house? And I ended up just laying in bed and just keeping my eyes open till about 5 a.m. And then just like, all right, well, maybe I'll go take a drive now.
Oh, man. Yeah, that activity sounds really, really intense. Was it ever like evil or dark, or was it just a powerful presence?
I don't want to say anything was evil. There was nothing like bad ever happened. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I think it was intelligent because it seemed like it would really get angry with us if we went looking for the spirit. It felt like it would get angry but not retaliate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
So I don't think it was anything demonic or anything to that nature.
Yeah.
But it was a scary. It would scare the hell out of me. And I'll wrap this story up with, we did our first episode on this house, and it started making the rounds around the Bridgewater pages. You know, you got your little local groups and everything.
Sure.
And about 3 or 4 months after we aired this episode, I got a message, and the message was, hey, is this the address of the house that you're talking about in Bridgewater? And I said, yes, but I don't tell anybody because we don't own the house anymore.
Sure.
And the person responded with, well, I'm the new owner. And then they started telling me everything that's happened to them. And some of it was overlapping stuff from the show. They had the voice situation happen. But some of the stuff was stuff that I didn't say on the show because I tried to reason with myself that it wasn't paranormal. It was just coincidence. So one of the ones was basically the attic door. Half the time you go upstairs, even though it had a double deadbolt, would be open. And I assumed it was an old house settling or whatever, and the door would swing open. The house had been fully renovated since then. The attic door is in a different spot. And she says about 25 to like 35% of the time she goes upstairs, that attic door is wide open still. It's in a different spot of the attic of the second floor. So, and it's got a lock and everything. So it's a crazy experience. And that house, I still drive by that house occasionally, and it still scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of stuff you'll never forget, I'm sure. And it has a presence to it. Dave, did you get your mic working?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You are
Hey, there
live,
it is.
sir.
Awesome.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. That Bridgewater story is great. And my favorite part of it is the fact that the people heard the episode and reached back out, because it validates everything. And that's what you want when because I feel like you're never really 100% sure when it involves the paranormal. I'm sure there are some people who are 100% sure about the things that they witness, but I always feel like, for me, I want to have that validation that it's what I saw was real and I'm not just losing my mind. So for me, it was kind of cool to see all of those things that we had experienced in that house be validated.
Yeah, no doubt.
Person reaching back out.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then the fact that they could corroborate some of the activity as well. Like, yeah, that's still happening. And guess what? Yeah, that's really intense. So you guys had these experiences, and at what point did you go, let's do a show? Was it the house? Was it this I mean, was that the whole let's do a show about this house, and then it just blossomed, or how did this work?
Not really. It was years in between these events and when we started the show. But after we started investigating the Bridgewater house, we were like, this is exciting. Let's investigate more things. Where else can we go? So I think the next thing we went to go see was the Houghton Mansion out in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, way Western Mass. It was North Adams, Massachusetts, which is like, if you're looking at a map of Massachusetts, it's as far northwest as you can get before you're in New York State. And it was a really interesting area. It's in the mountain range, and this area is in it's almost like a bowl, surrounded by mountains. Really cool atmosphere. And in the middle of this bowl is this big haunted mansion called the Houghton Mansion. And this is a place that Zach Baggins has been to, and several other paranormal investigators. So we're like, let's go check out this one. It's right in our state. we didn't really realize how far away it was until we were like, oh, we're going from one side of the state to the complete opposite side of the state.
Sure.
But once we got there, we're looking for this mansion, first of all, and we're driving through this residential neighborhood, and it's just house, 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 house. We're like, this can't be it. This can't be right. There's no way there's a haunted mansion just in this little neighborhood. And sure enough, in the middle of this tiny little neighborhood is this gigantic mansion that they turned. It used to be an old mansion. They turned it into a Masonic lodge, and it was this haunted location. So we were just amateurs, and we were like, let's get in and let's see if we can find some stuff. And we found some pretty interesting stuff there, much to my surprise. I was a little bit skeptical back then, but I was pretty shocked right off the bat with the things that we saw.
Wow. So you were skeptical, even though you'd already experienced so many things in your younger years, you were skeptical even moving forward from there?
Yeah, I was always more of a skeptic than these guys were personally.
Sure.
And it was kind of funny to take a side story here. I was talking about how much of a skeptic I was, and my mother one day goes to me, she goes, "You're a skeptic?" She's like, "Do you know you have a ghost story?" I'm like, "What do you mean I have a ghost story? I would know if I had a ghost story. I don't have a ghost story." And she goes, "Well, I'll tell you. You were about 2 years old. We lived in this house in Plymouth, and we had just moved in. Jesse wasn't born yet, and I was 2, and I had this little imaginary friend when we moved into the house. And I had named this imaginary friend Bernie. And my mother thought that was kind of an odd name for a 2-year-old to come up with, Bernie. She's like, all right, whatever. He has an imaginary friend. No big deal. One day, she's having tea with the neighbor. And the neighbor was talking about the woman who lived in the house previously. Nice lady, in her 30s, died young of cancer. Mm-hmm. And her name was Bernadette. And everyone called her Bernie. And my mother, she was drinking tea, and she almost spit her tea all over the woman and said, her name is what? She goes, yeah. She's like, my son has an imaginary friend named Bernie. So that was kind of, for me, that was like, oh, wow. That's like a legitimate haunting, I think. I don't know. Who knows what a 2-year-old can come up with, but I just think it was so random to come up with that particular name.
Yeah.
So
I think those stories are fascinating too. When the imaginary friends that are probably more than just imaginary, and having, the ability to tell these children things, and the kids will start singing songs that there's no way they ever heard, or start bringing up stories that there's nowhere they were exposed to. I think that's very powerful. Kids definitely see more than we do, but that's really powerful. But it's also a little creepy.
It is creepy, and it is powerful. For me, when you hear a kid say that they see a ghost, like Rob's story that he told about his younger brother, a kid, some people might dismiss a kid's story and say it's a kid, kids get big imaginations, but a kid also isn't afraid to say what they're seeing. And right. A lot of times when they're that young, they don't really have a reason to make something like that up. Mm-hmm. And they might just be saying what they see without fear of people saying they're crazy.
Right.
Like an adult might have reservations to say they saw a ghost for fear of being ostracized for whatever reason, but a kid doesn't. So you can look at it from the other side and say, well, what a kid is seeing might be more legitimate because they don't have any reason to say anything otherwise.
Right. Yeah, good point. So Rob, I know you're a believer because you grew up around this stuff and it was just part of your existence, but Jesse, when did you get on board with this, or were you always open to it, or did you start out skeptical as well?
I was more like open-minded, but skeptical. And it was more like I needed to see something in front of my face for me to actually believe it. But I always wanted to. I was like, the idea of ghosts was always so fascinating to me. The idea of demons was always terrifying to me. Yeah. And I always, Halloween was just, as I grew older and older, it just was like, I was all out. Halloween's my absolute favorite. Let's do all the haunted houses. Let's do this. And then it evolved from, let's stop going to haunts and let's go to actual haunted houses and go see this creepy place. Let's go visit that abandoned place. And it just evolved into an absolute interest in this stuff. So I went into it with an open mind, but deep down I was like, I couldn't fully call myself a believer in the paranormal until I saw something in front of my face. And in the strangest of places, I did end up seeing something. Oh. Me and Rob were living together in a condo with my buddy Nick. So we were all just roommates. And my room was in the basement. And one night, randomly, I wake up. Actually, it's like the morning. So early hours in the morning, I wake up and I turn and there's a shadow of like a giant shadow figure of a woman standing right next to me, like right next to the bed. And I look over and I'm just like, oh, swear words. And I lost my mind. And Then I turn around, I look back, and she's gone. It was so clear and so like in my face. It wasn't like, oh, I think I see a shadow. It was right there, standing over me, like it was about to slap me or something.
Oh, Jesus.
I had thought maybe my girlfriend or fiance at the time, or whatever she was at the time, I thought maybe she had come in unannounced and was just standing there waiting for me to wake up or something psychotic like that. I was 1,000% sure there was a woman standing there. And that was like the first thing that I've ever seen that shook me to my core. And then strangely enough, I just go about my day, whatever. I don't really tell anybody. And then later that day, me and Rob hop in the car and we're heading somewhere, probably a casino. And I'm like, dude, this crazy thing happened to me. And Rob's like, dude, this crazy thing happened to me. I'm like, what happened to you? He's like, last night I woke. Rob, I'll let you tell it because I don't want to get the details wrong.
So I was nothing had ever happened in this condo before this and after this is another thing we need to preface here. I was in bed watching TV and I felt something sit.
Not the same bed, just to make that clear. It's different rooms.
No, different rooms.
Well, you were close friends, but
it wasn't the weekend. This was during the week. During the weekend,
yeah,
sure.
You know, all bets are off on the weekend. So I'm laying in bed and I feel something sit on the side of the bed, and then push me over and lay down. And I remember staring at the wall for like 5 minutes, terrified. And then I'm like, what are you doing? There's nothing here. Turn over. There's not going to be anything there. And there was nothing there. And then I heard or felt nothing else the rest of the night, but it was distinct. You know when someone sits on a bed. It's different than like just touching the bed. It's different than putting your hand on the bed. There was like that sag feeling almost that comes on. And it was terrifying. And just to Jesse's point, we got in the car that day and we both just kind of sat there while we were driving for 5 minutes and said nothing to each other. And then like at the same time said it was just, I'll never forget that car ride because it was just so odd. It was so, the energy was so different that day and because we're friends, we bust each other's balls all the time. As soon as we get in the car, he'll probably make fun of me or I'll make fun of him. But that day we just drove for 5 minutes and then told this story. It was crazy.
I've been trying to rack my brain because it wasn't like we went somewhere haunted. There's absolutely no reason that this random condo in Marshfield would be haunted. It's just the most unassuming place. I don't think it's haunted. Nothing else paranormal, to my knowledge, has ever happened there. It was just that one night the both of us seem to have gotten visited by something, and I don't really have an explanation for it.
It's probably just Dave.
Must be.
So Rob, what does it feel like to be the little spoon in that deal?
So as we've done this show more and more, although Dave has had some experiences, Jesse has had some experiences. When we go these places, I think we've learned that I'm relatively sensitive to this stuff, more so than I ever thought. So going to these places, we went and we did an investigation at the Oliver House in Middleborough, Massachusetts. And I remember walking into that house, and it's creepy, but they don't dress it up to be creepy. It is dressed up to be like it was in the 1700s. It's not one of those haunted places where they're putting dolls and stuff everywhere. For the most part, this place, they're trying to show you how the Olivers basically lived in the late 1700s. So I remember going in the house and we're doing just some B-roll footage during the day. We're just like filming some of the inside of the house. We just want to just to show, because as you were on, we do a pre-produced section on our show to do a narration and show the place when we do a investigation. And I'm walking around and I think everybody's upstairs. Well, it turns out everybody had went outside and I'm in here just like an idiot, just recording by myself, just walking around this haunted place. And I walked upstairs and I remember looking at this one room and I felt real uneasy looking at it. And then I stepped in real quick and I felt even more uneasy. And later we had a guide that came and like explained all the rooms to us. And I was like, this room feels off. And she goes, oh, that room is off. And here's why. And I was like, oh, okay. And if you ever go investigating with your friends, what I will say is never admit when you see a place that you find scary, because they will stick you in that room by yourself to do the investigation. and it's terrifying. But we get a lot of good stuff.
1,000% of the time.
Yeah.
Never expose your weakness.
Never expose your weakness. Exactly. But
yeah, the Oliver House was a good investigation. That was a very historic house. Benjamin Franklin had spent time there, and it had a lot of ties to the Revolutionary War and everything. So it was a real cool place to investigate. We went in there and didn't expect to get much. And we're like, this is probably, whatever. It's something to do. Let's just go do it. We had a friend who was kind of running the operation over there in terms of hosting paranormal investigations. None of us somehow had heard of this house until we were at a paranormal convention on board the USS Salem, which is a old World War II or post-World War II battleship that they had a paranormal convention on. And we ran into her there. We're like, oh my gosh, Dave knew her anyways. Anyways, we end up there, and we went in there not really thinking we were going to get anything. And we ended up getting a lot. There was some serious intelligent responses via the spirit box, some weird stuff that we really couldn't explain. Rob got scratched. We did get it on camera. He tried to rack his brain, was like, did I scratch myself? I don't remember touching myself, but there was a red mark. We actually put it in the video. So could be something there. I don't think there's anything demonic there, but something scratched Rob, whether it was Rob not knowing that he scratched himself, but I don't think so. Like, we had cameras on him the whole time and we never saw that happen. So there was something there. There definitely was. And it actually ended up being like one of our top 5 most downloaded podcasts. So for some reason, this house that and I'm pretty sure most listeners hadn't heard of, it actually did really well and people were pretty interested in it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, especially with that kind of history. That's incredible.
Have you heard of the Oliver House, Brett?
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of the Houghton mansion that you're talking about. I hadn't heard of the battleship, but that's really cool too. I'd love to check out all of them, and I'm kind of envious because those of you on the East Coast, you have access to these 300-400 year old, possibly more locations, whereas I'm over in the north of Idaho, and we have buildings, but most of them are like maybe 100 years old or so. They was, of course, settled much later. But yeah, I think there's so much history. There's so many things that have happened on the East Coast that just seems to really lend itself to excellent paranormal locations. We got a question in the chat, and this is from one of our listeners, K-Love, and she says, has anyone brought home a hitchhiker from the haunted places?
Not that I know of personally, but I don't think that necessarily means yes or no one way or the other, because these entities have no perception of time. So I could have brought something home at any point and it could still be lingering and just not made itself present yet. But as far as I know, nothing for me personally. No. You guys?
No. Nothing, not to my knowledge at the moment. We'll see as we do more and more investigations.
Yeah.
I don't think so as well, but I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, the house that I'm in now, we're all at the general consensus that we're pretty sure is haunted, at least me and the wife are. Mm-hmm. And it's a relatively old house. It was built in 1899, and things have been happening. And as we visit more and more locations, I wouldn't rule out that the reason that more things are now happening in this house that I'm in is because maybe as I'm exposing myself to darker and darker locations, something could be building activity, but I just don't know. It might just be a relatively haunted house. The house that I'm in now, it's got some cool stories. For one, we found a hidden staircase in a couple like walled off rooms. Ooh. That was a cool find. I don't know if there's anything haunted tied to that, but yeah, we were taking a mirror off the bathroom and all of a sudden there's a whole staircase behind the mirror. And I was like, what in the world? So of course I climb in.
Did Nicolas Cage climb out with the copy of the Constitution?
Yeah,
or something?
He did. Yes, where he stored the Declaration of Independence.
That's where they got the idea for the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
My bathroom. But we've had some cool stuff. So there's been like knocks. We're always seeing like shadows kind of flit by in the corner of our eyes, mostly in the kitchen area and where I'm at now, which is in my office. The kitchen is right behind me. So the kitchen area seems to be the most active location in this house. There was one night, me and the wife were watching a movie in the living room, which is a couple rooms back, and we hear something hit the floor in the kitchen. We're like, what the hell was that? So we go into the kitchen, and one of the magnets from the fridge had launched itself all the way across the kitchen, and it was sitting like towards the complete opposite side. And I'm like, how did a magnet fly off the fridge? No one had gone into the kitchen in a while.
Right.
So like an idiot, I'm standing there in the kitchen, like slamming the fridge door, shaking the fridge, trying to get the magnet I couldn't even get the magnet to slide down the fridge, never mind fall off. I drop it on the floor a bunch of times. I couldn't get it to even bounce remotely close to where the thing had landed. Very cool. And I was just fascinated by this. And then there was another incident. I had a bunch of guys over, so me and Rob also kind of mixed in with some fantasy football stuff, but I had a couple guys over that were there to record a podcast in my house. And we're all just sitting there watching the Thursday night football game before we record the podcast. These guys are not into the paranormal. These are sports guys. We're all just sitting there. And this guy, Joe's like, bro, what the hell? How did that happen? And we look, and in the middle of the floor, the remote for the TV is just standing up on end. Like, and it wasn't one of those square remotes that you could just balance. This thing was one of the ones with like a round bottom. And we're like, dude, I could sit there all afternoon and try to get that thing to stand up on its own. It's not going to do that. Like, how in the world is that there? I have kids, but the kids have been in bed for hours. We had been in there all night watching football. Like, we would have noticed the remote just standing up. It was just weird. Wow. And then the most terrifying incident, this is the last one I'll give you, then I'll give the show back to you. The most terrifying incident I've had in this house, I'm sitting there, I'm home alone, doorbell rings. I'm like, oh, what was that? Okay, someone's at the door. I go to the front door, no one's there. I'm like, oh, weird, they must be at the side door. I go to the side door, no one's there. I'm like, oh, someone's messing with me. I go back to the front door to double check. And then I walk down the driveway to make sure it wasn't just UPS dropping off a package and leaving. No one's there. I'm like, oh, that was weird. Go back in the house. A few minutes later, doorbell goes off again. I'm like, dude, who is here? That now I'm thinking it's some kid pranking me, hiding in the bushes or something. I go out, nobody's there. And then as I'm going in, I'm like, the thing must just be faulty or something, the wiring. Like a psychopath's, this thing just goes bing, 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 bing. And dude, my heart just dropped into my stomach. I could hear my heart throbbing in my ears. I'm like, dude, what is happening? And at that point, the wife pulls in, and I'm just standing there like I couldn't move, man. I was freaking out. Absolutely the most horrifying thing ever. Nobody was there. And the doorbell has never done that again. Wow. There's nothing wrong with it. Like the most horrifying thing I've ever experienced, a doorbell.
Jeez. You know what they say about the whole knocking and stuff? If it ever happens, they say don't answer the door because you might just be letting something in.
Yeah, it's trying to ask for permission. I'm sitting there opening every door, walking around the yard with the gun out.
Yeah, exactly.
All the demons are like, wow, this guy's easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's crazier than me. Never mind.
Yeah, we're moving on. This guy's an idiot. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Oh, you're right.
I don't know you that well. I shouldn't be. But I feel like I've known you guys for years. That's the beauty of getting to know you guys. It's just been, it's so damn comfortable. So, I just love talking
we just
to
click.
guys. Yeah, right. Exactly. So we get another question in the chat. Has anyone experienced any physical contact or attack?
So the main one was the one we brought up at the Oliver house. Sure. And just to show you like how much we are learning as we go, my whole thing is I don't want to come off as like we're doing stuff just for the show. So
sure.
To go into what happened that night with the scratch, it happened while we were still doing the tour of the house with the tour guide. So we're on the second floor, and we had just left that room I told you about, and my neck started burning. And we had one of the other Wilkins brothers. There's so many of them, just it's unbelievable. There to help us with filming and stuff like that. And so Dave and Andrew are with the tour guide in the front, and I actually grabbed Jesse by the arm because I didn't want this to be on camera. Mm-hmm. And I grabbed him. I go, hey, I need you to look at my neck, and I need you to tell me if there's anything there because it's burning right now, but I haven't done anything to it, I'm pretty sure. And then he's looking at it. He's like, yeah, it's red. There's a mark there. And we didn't even like record it. I'm like, I don't know if we should record this because I don't want this to, because when you watch these shows and you see this, you're like, okay, you just shut the camera off. You did that. And then you turn the camera back on. You're like, that's always been my general impression of it.
Well, the camera was rolling, but it was just walk-through footage. So it wasn't like standstill. It was just kind of me following you around, but you never see your arms go up and scratch you. We did take a picture of it. We included that in the episode, but it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't part of the investigation yet. So it wasn't even like we were trying to find anything. We were just trying to take a tour of the house and learn the history. Sure. So it was a weird time for it to happen.
Yeah, so I that's why I pulled them to the side. And obviously we probably should have just recorded it as it happened, but I didn't want to, I don't know. It's like, it was just real weird. It hurt like hell, to be perfectly honest. For the rest of the night, I could feel it the entire night. It was like this burning mark right on the back of the left side of my neck. It hurt like crazy, but it was from that room. It was either from that room that I said or right outside the hallway of it. And that, I think in terms of like physical interactions, that's the only one I can think of that we've had.
The only other one wasn't during an investigation, but this one was what led my wife to actually bring priests into the house to have the house exorcised. Because at one point it was like 9 a.m. or whatever, it's light out, and I'm still in bed, and I got waken up to what I thought was my wife just like grabbing my shoulder kind of aggressively and driving her thumb into like my shoulder blade. I'm like, all right, I'm up. And then there's no one there. And I'm like, whoa. And she was actually walking up the stairs at the time. She goes, what are you doing? She just hears me in the bedroom going, whoa. And I'm like,
surfing.
I'm like, I felt you grab my shoulder to wake me up. She's like, I didn't touch you, and we're calling the priests today. And she did actually, and they came by. And it was kind of a funny story when they came by, because it was a legit exorcism of the house. Now, they weren't exorcising a demon out of like me or anyone.
Just an infestation.
It was whatever ritual they do to cleanse the house, if you will. Different than just walking around with sage. We're part of a Greek Orthodox church. So every single thing in the Orthodox Church is like a 2-hour process. Yeah. So if you buckle up, if ever you're going to do literally anything with the church, but this was one of those. But he's telling us as he's like getting ready, he's, laying out his different things and finding his verse in the Bible that he's going to read from or whatever. And he's like, all right, so listen, if things start shaking in the house, if the candles light, if things start falling off the shelves, that's perfectly normal. Nothing to worry about. And I'm already doing paranormal investigating. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, would you be opposed to me taking a little video if that happens? So I punched my mic, and he was fine with it. But none of that kind of stuff did happen. But still, kind of a cool thing to witness.
Yeah. And Dave, you haven't had any contact kind of experiences?
No, I don't think so. No, not physical contact. No, I've seen plenty of intelligent responses to things, but physically, no, not myself.
Now, Rob, when this happened, was it just, it's kind of a cliche thing. And I'm not really sure that it's as profound as it's made out to be, but was it just one scratch or was it 3?
It was just one.
Okay. It
was like this one mark down my neck, like right down this left side. Pretty sure there wasn't 3. It was just the one scratch.
And the reason I ask is, of course, the cliche, well, it's a mocking of the Trinity, and it's
right.
And I don't know how anybody gets to that assumption. I mean, in my opinion, we don't know that a lot of these things were ever human. So, and how many fingers, if they only have 3, that's how many they can make.
Yeah.
It's a huge assumption to go, well, they're mocking, the Trinity. Well, no, maybe they just got 3 to work with. That's it.
Yeah, right. So. Maybe they just got a claw.
So I just kind of scoff at that. We get another question in the chat. It's from Luna Moonicorn, who asks, many people experience hauntings in the daytime or when the lights are on. Is there a reason people investigate mostly at night and in the dark?
Yes.
I think this is a great question.
This is a really good question. This is something that we kind of picked up on in our trial by error. And whenever we go to a location, we learn one more thing that we're doing wrong and why. And so somewhere along the road, we learned that as few electronical devices that can interfere with your equipment is the best. So all the lights go off. That way, your EMF detectors aren't picking up energy from any lights or any sort of electrical source that's going on. As far as day versus night, I don't know. I feel like that's just, we've investigated during the day.
It's believed that the spiritual veil is lifted somewhat at night, just like it's lifted whenever it's close to Halloween, right? I think it's the day after Halloween is like the most active time of year, because that's when the veil is the thinnest. But it is believed that it's more likely that you're going to experience something at night. And just aesthetically, if we're shooting a TV show, it's scarier at nighttime. So and there's that. But I think there is some science behind it where they think that veil is thinner or lifted a bit, if you will, at night, any night.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that perhaps it's the 3 to 4 a.m. window when it's probably the lightest, but that's a personal assumption. But I will say that nighttime investigating also, I mean, a lot of times you don't have the luxury of being in a secluded cabin in the woods or something like that. You're in very busy places with cars driving by, sirens and stuff. And of course, at night, generally people are sleeping, so things are quieter, and it's easier to quantify evidence without, well, is that someone cussing out the milkman or what's going on? Not that there's milkmen anymore, but anyway, you don't get the atmosphere.
If there were, we would cuss them out, right?
they got it coming. That's what I'm saying.
Can't just let them go by.
If you're delivering milk, you got it coming. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that the nighttime, of course, is quieter, and there's less distractions going on. So it does lend more credibility to evidence that it's not atmospheric or something happening in the area. So very cool.
Yeah, just from an investigation standpoint, there's just less noise contamination.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it just that way.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. There was a question here from, let's see, well, let me find it. My chat keeps scrolling. It's from Jaron Daniels, who's one of the hosts of Supernatural Station podcast. And he says, do you think the ratio of good versus malicious entities is lopsided, and why?
I would say that if it's lopsided to the good. But just like with anything, you're going to hear about the extremes more, right? So if there's one evil entity in a place, you're going to hear about that one place versus the 100 places that have just general, regular, everyday hauntings. Mm-hmm. So that's why you don't hear about like the house in Bridgewater, where a lot of the hauntings were scary, but they weren't, I don't think they were evil in intent. And who knows how many other houses on that same street are haunted or have had situations. But if there was something demonic going on, you're going to hear about that. So it's probably lopsided. It's just we deal in extremes and everything.
Sure.
So you're going to hear more about the extreme situations than the stuff that's more, just, I don't want to say average, because a haunting is not average, but you know what I mean.
I don't know if average is the right word, but you get obviously the huge stories are the malign spirits, the evil ones. Those are the big stories, your Amityville, your Conjuring, etc. But there are more, I think, positive ones that we get. And the most are actually in the middle. The most are just non-intelligent hauntings, just residual hauntings. You hear footsteps, you see something walk across the hallway, or some ghost being caught in a repetition that they were repeating from when they were alive. That's the bulk of it, in my opinion. I think most of it are those repetitive hauntings that are neither good or evil.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
yeah. I think you could look at it almost the same way you look at the news, right? The news isn't just reporting on all the people that had a normal day. You could equate to your normal haunts. They're going to report on the people that are either having a really bad day or occasionally a really good day, right? So you're going to hear about the negative haunts a lot more than you're going to hear about your run-of-the-mill haunts.
Yeah, I would agree. Although, I think, of course, the terrifying ones more people are likely to talk about than, there's the grandma sitting in the chair again, rocking in the window. It's more benign or less sensational. No,
Hollywood isn't going to make a movie about the one ghost that moves a teacup 3 inches every 2 years. It's just not going to make the cut,
Like I said, I'm looking for the ghost that vacuums. That'd be great. I mean, if they're going to be here, they might as well be doing something. Yeah. There's another question in the chat, and this is from one of our mods. Rachel gets it right and says, do you think setting up a portable DVD player with a screen, making a movie, for example, an old classic like Casablanca or a Marx Brothers movie might get a response? Do you think that may work as a trigger object, let's say?
I think that would have to be something specific to the spirit in the house, right? So
sure.
We did do a story where a guy set up this exact situation in Pittsburgh, and he played The Passion of the Christ on repeat over and over, and he claims that it would, what did he claim it was doing to the spirit?
It was like quieting down the demon. So he was trying to get a demon out of the house, and his way of doing that was it started with just playing the Passion of the Christ on one TV every once in a while. And towards the end of the story, he seemed to have it not only playing in multiple rooms, but he had mirrors set up in these rooms so it would reflect the Passion of the Christ into every corner of the room.
Oh.
This was his.
That's the exact same way that I watch Passion of the Christ. So.
Somehow his marriage didn't work out.
Yeah.
That guy's not mine. My marriage is fine.
And the moral of the story is if you're haunted, invoke the name of Mel Gibson and all things will be fixed.
Jim
That's the safest
Caviezel,
way.
come save me.
You just have to find a DVD player. There's your big task.
Yeah. Well, that's probably true too. But I think that's an interesting take too, because I do
too.
I think that it's, if these spirits, like say, were alive during the 40s, 50s, certainly things from that era may inspire some more activity. But I agree. You're right. You can't know unless you experiment with things like that. When
Exactly.
I originally read that question, I thought I thought Rachel was going with the whole picture in a picture in a picture at infinity, and then looking at the frames. You guys have heard about that, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
Is that the mirror game there? Is that one of those paranormal games?
No, it's actually an old. I think it might have been developed by parapsychology, but basically what they would do is take a video camera, whatever make and model, point it at a TV, so it's constantly reflecting an image of this screen, and essentially making infinite layers. And apparently some people have gone frame by frame through these recordings and found these silhouettes, and sometimes looking like people that had died in a location. So it's a strange concept, and I don't know. That's
kind of a cool experiment.
Right. And it doesn't seem like it would be very hard to do. I think examining it, because if you're recording 60 frames a second, and you record for an hour,
it's a lot of frames to go through, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of legwork, but there's been some interesting things captured, but those kind of things seem to kind of fall off to the wayside in replacements by things like the flashlight test and stuff like that. And you guys had mentioned that. I think those tests are really pretty incredible, but it has everything to do with timing. Like if it's just kind of popping on or off randomly, well, it could be, but it very much could be just atmospheric or whatever. But when those responses are happening on cue, based on a question, I think it's incredibly powerful and compelling.
We've had it happen both ways. So we've had it specifically in the Bridgewater house. It always felt like it was responding to a question, but we've gone to other locations where we've done it and it's just turning on and off. And we obviously don't use that footage because we don't think that there's anything to it at that point other than it's just jumping consistently on and off. Right. So
sure.
It is very, I understand the skepticism behind it, but like you said, when it's being done and there's no rhythm or no pattern and it's at the command of the question, it's very compelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is interesting. And to go back to the movies that she was talking about and playing these movies as kind of trigger objects, I'm a big fan of using trigger objects as long as you know who you're dealing with or what kind of ghost you're dealing with. Right. So if you're in a house where this little girl died in a fire and she had her doll, and you bring that doll and you try to use that doll, or one of the more common objects that's used is like a rubber ball or a soccer ball or something. And you sit in the middle of the floor, you do your scientific tests, make sure that if you shift your chair back or if you walk next to it, the thing isn't just going to roll due to the motion in the room. And these objects at a lot of different locations, we've seen them at Waverly Hills, we've seen it at the Houghton Mansion. We're actually heading to a location on Sunday where the soccer ball is one of the trigger objects, and you'll sometimes see this thing roll, or you'll go back and check on it later. It'll be in a completely different room. And so these are different trigger objects, but as long as you know why it's there and why you're bringing a certain object, and then I think you could have more success with it for sure.
I always find the ones like some of the trigger objects I think are just in poor taste. Like, let's hang a noose up on a rafter because this is where the person hung himself. It's like, no, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, I think at the Villisca axe murder house that there was on the Ghost Adventures episode, Zach Baggins literally laid down and had like the axe just sitting there. He's like, chop my head off now, demon. I would not go that approach.
No, yeah, jeez. All right,
Because the best case scenario is also the worst case scenario.
It worked, and we have to find a new host. Aaron's time to shine.
It's Aaron's adventures after that. All right, from David Zeismer in the chat, he said, "What's the most scary thing that you guys caught?"
Well, I would say
For me,
Go ahead.
For me, it was the EVP at Emily's Bridge on the voice recorder.
Okay,
that was terrifying.
Yeah, I think we briefly discussed that. We had you on our show.
Oh, okay.
But Emily's Bridge up in Vermont, covered bridge, very haunted, or it was supposed to be. We didn't expect to find much, but Dave got this EVP, and we had also seen some shadows moving around on that bridge. It's pretty cool. Dave, tell them about how manly you were. And
so just to set the stage of this place, because Jesse did such a shit job of explaining what we thought we were getting when we went there. We went to investigate this hotel and to investigate Emily's Bridge, which could it be haunted? There's a story. It could be an urban legend.
Mm-hmm.
And something that we can talk about later is like how important the haunting for a town is because of the history you learn. But we went there and we expected to hopefully get some evidence at the hotel. And I think it was a consensus that we were going to go to this covered bridge and we were going to get nothing because we were sure that this was all an urban legend and nothing was going to happen there. And between Dave's EVP and whatever me and Jesse saw, it was one of the most terrifying nights of our lives investigating. Maybe because it was unexpected, but I was scared to death as we were just standing right outside that covered bridge.
Wow.
Yeah, so the EVP that we got, we were just testing the equipment. We just got there, and I had a spirit box and a voice recorder, but I didn't even have the spirit box out yet. I was just checking the voice recorder to make sure it works, just asking some cursory questions. And I forget off the top of my head what the questions were, but when I played the thing back, there was a clear female voice that said what we think to be behind you. So it completely threw me off guard.
Yeah, it could have been behind you. Others thought it said, "I'll find you," which I think is a little more concerning.
Mm-hmm.
But both are equally terrifying. It was a pretty clear. It's what us in the field call a Class A EVP. It was very, very clear. A little bit distant, but you could make it out what it was said. And this bridge was so surprising to all of us because this was like a pit stop, right? We were going up there we had a room at the Green Mountain Inn. We were going to go investigate that. We got the haunted room at the haunted hotel. We managed to book it. We set that up ahead of time. We're like, sick. We're going to investigate this room all night. We got a little bit in that room, but later on in the night, we're like, all right, let's make our pit stop over to the bridge. And we got so much so fast. And it was crazy. And it started with the equipment malfunctioning as well. The reason Dave was tinkering around with his electronic devices was because everything was malfunctioning the second we got there. And it started with my night vision camera. I couldn't get the thing to turn on for the life of me. Battery was fully charged. We were using it at the hotel. Got to the bridge. Didn't work. Couldn't get it to turn on at all. It was weird because it was one of the GoPros. So like the Wi-Fi, I don't know if it's just on the older models, but there's a light that blinks consistently when the little Wi-Fi signal is on the camera. That was still blinking, but the thing just wouldn't power on. Pop the battery out, pop it back in. Nothing would work. As soon as we get away from the bridge and get back to the hotel, thing fires right up like nothing was wrong in the first place. Yeah. So it was like 2 or 3 different devices that were acting up on that bridge all at the same time.
That's crazy.
And just to show you how professional we are, as soon as Dave hears the voice, he runs and shuts the camera off instead of continuing to record. So that was great.
Well, the recording was already done. I was playing it back. There was nothing.
It was a veteran move.
And I was running back because I was so excited to show you.
Oh, okay. That's what it was.
Scared
he was actually running just to make sure that you weren't too scared, Rob.
He was skipping with the ghost to show us together. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was.
Exactly.
Locations like that, I think, are pretty interesting because it's kind of like the hotels. It seems like every hotel has the jilted bride. and every bridge has the, the baby that was dumped, and, or any number of different stories like that. And I don't think they can all be true, but there are literally thousands of these bride stories in hotels, and the very much the same for the bridges. And I kind of wonder if the belief doesn't create the event in some cases, like, and not that there couldn't be an intelligence to it, but maybe it plays a role, based on what people are expecting. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it does. And it kind of goes to, so we just covered Sloss Furnaces Tuesday down in Alabama. And if you dig into the history of this place, there is some really bad stuff that happened to workers that fell into the furnace and lost their lives, and brutally lost their lives. And if you look up Sloss Furnaces, all you're going to find is the story of a night foreman named Slag, who 47 people died during his time working there. The problem is he never existed.
Oh,
it wasn't
really?
a thing. It was made up. But there has been so much paranormal location at this place that I think the story was made up to explain the paranormal events, which kind of sucks in a way, because then you have skeptics that'll be like, well, this story is clearly made up. It's like, yeah, but look at the 20 other people that passed away here.
Right.
There was a suspected murder on location, and there's been over 100 calls to the police station and documented paranormal activity in this place. That's just crazy. But because you have this one story that was made up to try to basically name the presence that's there, it takes away, because any skeptic is just going to go, nope, because this story's not real. None of it's real. And it's sad that places do that. Hopefully that's on topic of what we're talking
we talked about that. We discussed that on the Queen Mary episode that you were on too, which was basically, there's so many good stories here. Why make up ones just to add to it? It's just pointless. Like, you have such a cool, scary location. But I think more so what you were talking about was, if enough people believe that something's real, then something can be born out of that.
Sure. Right.
Is that what you were talking about?
I mean, it's kind of an enigma, right?
Kind of like a mass hysteria type thing.
Right, like a generation, that if enough people put this fear and energy into something, that could it become, in and of itself an entity, or does something adopt that? I'm not really sure what to think of it, because I don't obviously understand the mechanics of it, but it just really boggles my mind. It's how does every bridge have this crying baby sound? And, when people investigate, they catch these amazing proofs that seem to substantiate the legend, which, when you look into it, never actually happened. But, something generated that sound that was absolutely sounding like a baby. So it's like the legend becomes real just by virtue of people believing in the legend. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. And I think if you have enough people concentrated in one area that fully believe in it, and if they are absolutely terrified, they're giving off that fear, that energy, I think that something could be born out of that. Or it could wake up something that had nothing to do with that haunting that they all believe is real. And boom, all that, this entity that's sitting there lying in wait is going to feed off that energy, and then is able to manifest or create some sort of a haunt.
Right.
Same thing with like equipment being drained. The equipment drains because the theory is that some sort of a spirit or a ghost is using that energy, pulling that energy to manifest itself, or to create some sort of a haunt for a brief period of time before it needs to go get its energy from something else. So cameras are dying,
sure,
laptops are dying, phones are dying. Boom, now you have something haunted, which is sometimes unfortunate, because damn, something haunted is happening and my camera's dead. But, I think it could be the same idea.
It is. But the other enigma with that is that, and I might have touched on this when I was on your show too, but it's the battery drain issue, like you're talking about with that didn't matter what you did, you could not get that to work. But as soon as you left the location, it's working fine. And so many people are like, oh, my battery's down to zero. I just charged it. I just put it in. It's brand new. And then they leave that room or part of that location, and suddenly the battery meter's at full again. So it really does seem to authenticate that there is some form of EM disturbance that happens in proximity to these events, for whatever reason. And I don't pretend to know, but it is very curious. We do have another question in the chat, actually a couple of them, but the first one is from Rachel Gets It Right. Do you think house structure has something to do with the intensity of the hauntings? No foundation built off the ground versus house with stone foundation versus, what does that say? Poured concrete foundations. So
absolutely.
Okay.
Dave's definitely the one to answer this, but Jesse, if you want to just go into the entire construction of how a house is built, you can do that as well.
Well, some houses are powered by nuclear energy. And the way nuclear energy works is fission. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Settle down. Yes, that's an awesome question. I think absolutely, and it's particularly with stone foundations because of the energy that stones retain naturally. So if you're a fan of the stone tape theory, there's a theory that specific kinds of stones which retain more heat will retain hauntings, basically. So limestone, granite, marble, all these stones are known scientifically to retain heat. So when somebody dies, your body releases energy in the form of heat, and that energy gets absorbed into the stones that naturally do that. So if you have a stone foundation, like I do, I think that absolutely would elevate the chances of you having a haunted house.
Also, the quartz content in every one of those stones you named is real high. And certainly that would work energetically as well. Potentially like a battery. Yeah, that's a great take. I think you're right.
It's interesting because with a lot of these hauntings, you have, we have the stone tape theory. I don't think anyone's really revealed why a haunting will replay itself or what could trigger that to affect. But what you do have in a ton of stories is the same thing that repeats itself over and over again is when a house is being renovated, all of a sudden paranormal activity goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And a lot of people equate this to, well, that's because the ghost is pissed off that you're changing its house from what it knows, which very well may be the case in some of these situations. But I think it's more about the fact that when you're breaking up these stones, you're releasing whatever energy was trapped inside of that. And, whether it's just old water or old energy or whatever escaping, boom, all of a sudden, a lot of these cases, you have a very brief period where there's a huge elevation in hauntings. Like a ton of crazy stuff is going on to a point where entire construction crews have been known to walk off of these job sites because they're like, this place is so haunted. I can't do it anymore. They're messing with my tools. They push Gary off a ladder. Gary sprained his ankle. We got to take Gary to the hospital. We're not coming back.
Poor Gary.
Luckily, no one likes Gary.
No one likes Gary.
My apologies to any Garys out there listening.
I like Gary.
I'm not going to say you deserve to sprain your ankle by falling off a ladder at the job site, but just don't be scared of the ghosts.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, but it usually calms down after that short period of time.
Yeah.
Because basically like whatever was released just kind of evaporates into thin air or whatever.
Oh, that's a great take.
It all goes back to foundation, the structure of the house, and the stone tape theory, if you will.
Yeah, very good take. We got another question from Aggravated Progressive. Do y'all think you're more sensitive to phenomena now?
I wouldn't say more sensitive per se.
Okay.
Maybe more open to seeing what is there.
More open and more aware is the way that I would put it. So that I think that I was probably always a bit sensitive to this stuff, but
Sure.
Now that I'm aware of it and also kind of know what I'm looking for a little bit, I think it's a little easier to not get stuff because it has to happen, right? I'm not manifesting anything, but I think it's just being more aware of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think it's like anything
knowing
else.
what to look for.
Yeah, it's like anything else where the more that we practice, the better you're going to get, the more professional you're going to get. You're not going to pick up a basketball and just start dunking right away. You got to work at it. So
some of us did.
Some of us aren't tall enough to do that, Rob.
Yeah. Well,
Me and Dave.
No, I think those are great takes. So, how many locations have you guys investigated at this point?
I haven't started keeping count. Have you guys? I'm not really sure.
No, that's a good question. We'll see if we could figure it out. So we've done Rob's Bridgewater house.
I would say it's, well, yeah. I mean, there's ones that we like really investigate, and then there's ones that we've visited and kind of Yeah, I mean,
We've done
could
the Conjuring House. We've done Emily's Bridge.
I would say
Green
north
Mountain
of,
Inn. Maybe 12, 13.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely north of 10, probably 15-ish. And then if you count all the unofficial ones that we've just visited, then I don't know. It's pretty high up there. There's also ones that we've gone back to multiple times. We've done the USS Salem multiple times. We've done the Hawthorne Hotel multiple times. So
true.
We've done this a whole lot.
Probably closer to 20.
Yeah, but if you want to count the amount of times that different locations probably. And I do think we've done Rob's house like 20 times alone at least. So we've done a lot of these
every night.
Yeah.
Unwilling.
Yeah, no choice.
No, that's true. Now, you did mention the Conjuring House. How did that go?
I would say that for me, although we got some evidence there, that house for us specifically was the biggest learning experience that we've had investigating. And that house in particular, if you go to the Conjuring House, it is a very scary house. It is very creepy looking. Inside is very creepy, but there is no insulation anywhere in that house. If you're in one corner and I'm in the other corner, as far away as can be, I could probably hear you whisper. So noise contamination in that house is very tough to deal with. You hear literally everything going on. So we were with too large of a group that particular time. Like I said, we still got some evidence. We still got some stuff. I personally would like to go back to the Conjuring House with just the three of us.
Now, I know it's under new ownership now, isn't it? I mean, didn't that just change hands not too far ago?
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it did.
Is it still available for investigations?
As far as I know, the new owners do still book it out for paranormal investigations. I would go a different route than we did. We just had too many people in the house when we did it. Like Rob said, it was a learning experience. So this was like one of the first ones, actually, when we had first started doing this show. We went out there with a big group of people. Yeah. It is an unbelievably creepy house. Like it really was scary. And we did catch some evidence. Again, we were kind of new at it, so we did a few things. I would do it a lot differently this time around. But that basement was, there's something undeniably in the basement of that house. You can just feel it when you go down there. And then it was like towards the end of the night, actually the next morning, because we were there throughout the night and then into the morning, I went back in. I'm like, let me just make sure I got pictures of every room. And I went through each room and I'm taking pictures. And when I was alone in that house, this was the first time through the whole thing I was actually alone. I was horrified, dude. It was just a whole different feeling. Yeah. And I was like, I am now terrified. And I'm like basically running to each room just to grab the pictures real quick and get out of the house. I was like, wow, I didn't feel this the entire night. We were there all night. Didn't feel it at all until I was solo. And then I felt like every room was just watching me. I could feel eyeballs on me. And there was some interesting stuff that happened there. They had, there was one team, I was in the next room over, but I heard a toy hit the ground and then they all freaked out and they were like, oh my God, that little toy car just completely rolled over and just rolled off the this dresser that it was sitting on. It was pretty cool to see. And then we got some pretty big spikes on the EMF detector and some interesting spirit box stuff. But I'd love to do it again. We would just go about it a different way.
No, that brings up an interesting point. Do you, I think the answer is probably self-explanatory, but do you feel that the smaller the group, the more activity you would have, or does the body count matter? What is your take on that when you go into investigations with a big crew versus a skeleton crew?
I don't think it affects the amount of haunting that is there or the amount of activity. Okay. I think it affects your ability to hear it and to catch it and to notice it. It's just too distracting.
That's a good take. Yep.
It could be both though, because it could be feeding off the energy of more bodies inside the building. So if it's a bigger location, I would like to go with a bigger team. But if it's a smaller location, I would like to scale down just off of, I don't want noise contamination just on that alone. Right. So, but it's interesting because with more people, it could be a more active night. It's just harder to tell what's ghost and what's, Gary falling off a ladder in the other room for some reason.
Damn Gary.
We don't bring Gary ever anymore.
Don't bring Gary. Don't leave him home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. We got a couple comments here again. David Zeismer asks, what is your most favorite place that you guys have been to, and would you go back again?
My favorite. So the Conjuring House is it was my favorite leading up to it. It was the one I was the most excited for. It had the scariest setting. It's set way deep in the woods. The house is from the 18th century, and it is everything about this situation was terrifying. I would love to do this one again, just like we've been saying for the past 10 minutes. Is we'd like to do it again and with a smaller group, because that house is really cool, and there was a significant amount of activity there, considering how big of a group it was that was with it. So for me, it's probably the Conjuring house.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's probably the Emily Morgan Hotel. We did that out in San Antonio, Texas, and that was such a cool hotel. I would like to work something out in the future, like with the hotel, to see if we can secure like I don't know, maybe in the off season or something like that, try to secure like a whole floor or something to do something bigger. But everyone in that building that works there had a ghost story. It's super old. It's built basically, I don't know if you're familiar with the Emily Morgan Hotel, but it's basically built on the grounds of the old long barracks of the Alamo. Like you walk out the front door, you're at the Alamo. So it's got a ton of history to it. It used to be a hospital. But you have a bunch of deaths that happened on site. There's plenty of reasons for it to be haunted, and there's just endless ghost stories that have happened there. So it's still an active hotel, and it's an awesome city.
So for me, I would say visually, the Conjuring house and Emily's Bridge were the two like terrifying just visually. In terms of investigating, I think the Oliver house was one of our scarier investigations. I'd like to redo the Oliver house, and I'll throw a bonus one in for places we've covered on the show that we haven't gone yet. The Sally house is my number one location that I'd like to go and investigate.
Yeah. There's so many great locations. There's one in Tennessee that I think would be fun to check out. And it's one that I'm actually inquiring on right now. It's called Brushy Mountain. And I want to get up there, and that would be a huge location. So again, another crossover episode, could be a crossover investigation.
Yeah, we could do that. We actually covered Brushy a couple of weeks ago on the show, and we brought in a guy named Jake the Viking. He used to work with
Mr. Beast.
Yeah. So we had brought him in. He actually had gone there and done an investigation there, and he's definitely down to go back. So maybe we could link up everybody, do a big old reunion. That'd be fun.
Yeah, let me know if you guys pull that together. I'll rollerblade there if I have to.
No, that's definitely.
There's got to be a faster way.
Probably, but I'm just saying that's how much it means to me.
But is there a more athletic way? No, I don't think so.
Probably not. No, I'd probably cut some weight on the way. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy to look this good, guys. You got to put away lots of calories.
I gotta take notes. I'll send you a message. I want some tips.
Very good. And there's another one here. From Chucky Danger says, have the guys tried an investigation in the forest, perhaps national parks where people go missing?
So we have not done anything in the forest yet, but what I will say is we are planning to eventually do a Bridgewater Triangle episode. And if we do a Bridgewater Triangle episode, that's not an if. When we do a Bridgewater Triangle episode, we will probably do the Freetown State Forest and investigate the Freetown State Forest, which is the home of plenty of ghost stories, plenty of terrible things that have happened there, and plenty of cult activity. So if we're not there on a Tuesday night at 9 p.m., we were abducted by a cult and sacrificed.
These things happen.
We have not exclusively investigated a forest, but we have investigated woods surrounding locations that we've investigated, like the Oliver house. We did a session out in the woods behind there. Same thing with the Conjuring house. We did a session out in the woods. So we haven't exclusively done a haunted forest, but we've
actually gone through and filmed at the Freetown State Forest, but not really an investigation. So I'm up for it. It's just, that's another one that's tricky. It's like a whole different kind of investigation. So what we did outside the Oliver house is we had the FLIR thermal camera, and we were kind of looking for like heat signatures, and we didn't catch anything on the thermal camera, but we did catch like a weird red light that was kind of off in the distance, and there wasn't a road in that direction. It was just forest. And then the light kind of just slowly disappeared, and we never saw it again. And we had it on camera. It's in the episode, and it was kind of interesting. We didn't know what it was, but didn't see it again, didn't have an explanation for it. So, but investigating in the woods is such a different, a whole different ball game. I mean, how can you really, I mean, I guess EVPs, you could get some sort of a voice to come through, but you're dealing with a whole different level of noise contamination, wind, animals. It's very tricky.
But you're getting less interference with other electronic devices
well.
too.
Yep.
So you're getting more of an unadulterated investigation.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that. Certainly, woodland investigations, I suppose, logistically they're a lot more difficult, but I think you also run the risk of running into things you weren't anticipating, like
Coyotes.
Well, Bigfoot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, going out there or Dogman or whatever, especially over in the East Coast. There's plenty of Dogman reports. Have you ever thought about getting into the cryptids at all in what you're doing?
Well, actually, we were just talking about the Oliver House outside the woods. The reason that we were exploring the woods is because they had a whole bunch of reports of puckwudgies outside in the woods by the Oliver House. Have you heard of puckwudgies before?
Oh, yeah. We've covered them many times on the shows. They're apparently diabolical little bastards.
They are little sneaky guys. So we didn't find any.
Well,
But we went out there. That's one of like the phenomenons inside the Bridgewater Triangle. Puckwudgies, Bigfoot sightings, pterodactyls, Thunderbirds. The usual stuff, UFOs. So you want, hey, if you're ever in Massachusetts and you want to jump into some cryptids, then Bridgewater Triangle is the place to be.
Yeah, I have no question. And Pennsylvania is a hot spot. I mean, you got so many of them over there. There's so much going on. It's just incredible. And that's the thing with this is that there's no finite amount of things you can look into. I think it just works out logistic, and that's what I'm really impressed with you guys is that, you're getting out there and you're doing all of this stuff. You're putting together these robust shows. You're doing the podcast off of your YouTube shows. I mean, I'm just so impressed with how much you guys are accomplishing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you guys are chasing it. Like you're a huge show with, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and stuff. And I mean, I just really respect that. And I think it won't be long till you get there because of the energy you guys put into it and stuff. But I just really am become a fan of what you're doing as well as, a friendship. I think it's just exciting.
I appreciate that. I mean, we do hope that it takes off. If not, then we've wasted a ton of time, but we've made a lot of awesome friends in the process. I mean, like there's a lot of our chat that's in your chat right now. These guys are amazing. They're there every Tuesday on time, and they always show love. So if we didn't have that support group behind it, as crazy as it sounds, because we're talking about, like 50 or 60 people that might watch us on a Tuesday night, when we have thousands that listen to the podcast, it's more about, for me anyways, it's about these guys that show up every week and they're there and are in chat and in the Discord and interacting. It looks like you have the same thing with your community. Like these guys all seem to know each other. They seem awesome. And that's like what keeps me going anyways for this whole thing is just, building relationships with these people and trying to get them content and everything like that. So.
Absolutely. We get another question in the chat. Rachel Gets It Right asks, aside from anywhere in the North American continent, what place in the world, Asia, Africa, Europe, have you heard of and would like to investigate if possible?
Get me anywhere in Europe. There's so many old castles we've covered. Leap Castle in Ireland seems like a really cool one. We've checked out, well, we haven't physically been there, but the Chillingham Castle up in Northern England. Another one.
Poveglia is at the top of my list in Italy. That whole island looks amazing. It's a bit off limits, but it seems like if you pay the right guy with a boat, he'll take you over there. So that was definitely on the list. I'm heading to Greece this summer, so I'm going to look into haunted places out there and see if I can get some sort of footage and put together an episode while I'm out there.
For me, it's Japan. Not a specific place, but Japanese culture with ghosts is very fascinating. Just looking into some of their history with that stuff, some of their stories with like onryos and stuff like that has been really fascinating. And another great part of doing the show is just learning so much about these locations and finding these cultures and stuff. So some Japanese place that is haunted would be probably towards the top of my list, but like Dave mentioned, those castles seem like very cool to investigate as well.
Yeah, and This is technically in the North American continent, but I would also love to get over to the Aztec pyramids in Mexico City.
Oh,
I think that would be an awesome one to check out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those kind of places are absolutely fascinating because you just think of all of that history and all of that things that happened and transpired. And it's, we're generally thinking in terms of hundreds of years, but you're dealing with thousands of years. And I think I was watching, God, it was years and years ago. It might've been Ghost Adventures. And I think they went to Pompeii. And they did an investigation, and they were using a FLIR, and they caught an actual, very good, it looked like, and again, I don't know how overproduced this was or whatever, just from the outside looking in, but it looked like a really good apparition walking between a couple of the stone pillars, and it was cold. It wasn't hot like a person would have been. It was cold, but it was a definite silhouette of a human being moving I think it was from left to right. And I was like, man, just lingering. Did you ever wonder, what are they doing? I mean,
a little bit. It's hard to fake things on the thermal camera, especially when it's cold, not hot. Yeah. Because you could send someone from the crew to go walk by, right? And that's usually your first thought is like, oh, that's just somebody on the crew that they're like, all right, Gary, go walk by the tree and we'll get you on camera. But when it's a cold, like, how do you do that?
Right.
Put Gary in an ice bath. Take Gary out of the ice bath, then have him walk by the tree. I don't know how you get something to show up as a cold apparition.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I think about that. What are these apparitions? Because, and again, it's all speculation, but we think in terms of, well, is it unfinished business? Is it trauma? Is it something? What keeps them anchored? And how long do they stay? I mean, are there still plenty of apparitions and things in these medieval castles? And it would seem that they are, but are they just truly stuck? Or are they earthbound spirits or something else that was never human? I don't know. That's the way my head works with this stuff, because I would like to think that if they used to be people, that you would reach a point where, okay, you settled all that stuff. Now it's, you move on. But if you're talking like 1,000 years or 2,000 years or whatever, it's like, well, how long does it take? What's going on there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Our favorite thing to say on the show is we don't make the rules, but I think it could be different with each one. I think there's some that could just fade over time or become less active over time. I think there's some that are a residual haunt that will just repeat this motion forever. And then there could be, I don't know, how do you really solve it? It's kind of, it's tricky to say, but my estimated or my educated guess would be that each spirit is probably a little bit different in its own way.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. Yeah. Any Rob or Dave, do you got any opinions on that? I'm just curious.
It's hard to, I don't really know where I stand on it. I don't even know what I would say a ghost is. Mm-hmm. Is it just residual energy left over from when somebody died? Is it completely absent any sort of intelligence? Do demons exist? Are there malign non-human entities that have been here longer than us? It's hard to say one way or another. I think there's something. I just don't know what it is.
Right.
So I'm that's what like me, a natural skeptic who's out here to learn everything I can about this because I find it absolutely fascinating. There's still so much to learn, and there's not a definite science out there because scientists, they can't study it without being ostracized or ridiculed. So that's why a lot of them don't.
Right.
But I was reading.
I like aggravated progressives comment that says we don't make the rules, we measure the phenomenon.
That's cool.
That's good. Yeah.
That is good.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the same boat. I mean, all the cars on the highway are driving, but they don't all have the same destination, right? Or same set of destinations or how they're going to get there. So it's more about, I think everything has to be taken on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I keep looking for answers, and I don't know if they'll ever have any or if there are any to have. I mean, maybe it's just not something that's understandable in our experience or in our intelligence or whatever, but it is curious that so many of them seem to have, so much intelligence. And then others just seem to be these, wandering apparitions. They're just the residual kind of stuff, and what's different, what's the same, are they the same thing? And then you talk about things like the the shadow people and these other types of creatures, the elementals, and add description here, and it's hard to understand, but I think that all of this is incredibly exciting because it's demonstrating physics standing on their head. These things are happening that just can't happen, quote unquote. They can't happen. Things can't move without being acted by a force. Well, and that's probably still true, but we just don't understand the force being applied to them. Like, when you go and you see that ball move, I mean, something is creating that movement, but how? It's not a physical mechanic, so it must be something energetic. And is that going to be measurable? What do you guys think about the technology that we use for investigating? Do you think we're on the right track with the whole EMF and magnetic medias to record with, or do you think this will be evolving differently through technology, or what do you think?
I'm not sure if the asking the guys that couldn't figure out Skype 15 minutes ago is the right. No, I think a lot of the equipment is really good and comes a long way, and but I'll let Dave answer it. He's a little bit better.
I think if we're basing it on the idea that a ghost is residual energy left over from when a human dies, then this is probably the best equipment available, at least currently, because you're measuring energy. You're measuring energy in places where energy shouldn't exist. And if energy's there where it shouldn't exist, then what is it? It's a phenomenon. So until that equipment evolves, I think we're currently using the best stuff available.
Yeah, I think it's exciting, especially when the advent of the FLIR technology finally filtering out of law enforcement and military, that average people could get their hands on FLIR devices without needing to sell a kidney or something first. I mean, that was a huge revelation. But and it's another thing to add to the toolkit. But what fascinates me, I think, is the idea that we're making probably a lot of assumptions, but there does seem to be detectable EM fields at work throughout a lot of this phenomena. But why then can't we take like a K2 meter and just, put it to our chest and see, it light up with your heartbeat or something, I mean, if we are the same stuff inside that these things are, and maybe it's being in a meat suit changes it, I don't know. But I don't know. I'm probably being way too theoretical here, and but it's just
there's something there, but I feel like after you die, that energy does leave your body. So maybe it's easier for something like a K2 meter to pick up on that energy when it's just pure energy, right? So the theory with ghosts is the energy leaves your body, and these energies are just floating around, which is why you use this kind of technology to detect them. So it's probably harder to poke my fat body and find my energy spirit inside with a K2 meter than it is to, just find one that's just pure ghost.
Sure. But what I would add to it is the tools are good, but you need to know how to use the tools, and learning how to use the tools is important. I watched an investigation today where a guy used an EMF meter and he put it right up next to a light switch, and he's like, wow, we already have this much popping off on the EMF meter. And I'm just like, I started smashing my head against the coffee table, because I'm like, dude, you're right next to an electrical source where you're getting all that feedback.
Yeah.
This is what the device is built to do.
Yeah. You were literally doing what its original purpose, and you're finding the electricity from the electrical source. Like, so and it's not to shame. It's to know what you're doing.
Yeah, the best tool in a paranormal investigation is the paranormal investigator. It's being open to finding stuff and knowing how to use the equipment that you have, even if you go in with limited equipment. When we went to the Houghton Mansion, we showed up with like nothing because we didn't know what we were doing. We had a couple video cameras and like a spirit box, and we ended up like hitting a Walmart and grabbing some voice. Thank God they had stuff. We found some voice recorders. Sure. This is like our first ever like real investigation. So we ended up equipping ourselves. But over time you'll get better with the stuff. But definitely all of this stuff, you buy a piece of ghost equipment off Amazon or wherever you get it, look into it before you use it, search it on YouTube, watch some paranormal shows, but you get a full breakdown on certain, on YouTube of how to properly use certain kinds of equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good take. Yeah. We got a question from Chucky Danger. Funniest experience on a ghost hunt?
There's
a few.
There's so many. I think, and we honestly, we share these with our Patreon members.
Oh,
we will put up some of our behind the scenes stuff of stuff that's happened that's funny. Whether there's one clip from one of the places that we investigated recently where Jesse is just losing his mind trying to figure out where this noise is coming from, and his brother Andrew comes walking in the room. It's like, oh my God, it was Andrew. But just the way it was hysterical.
Yeah.
I think so. This is going to get off topic a little bit, but I think we like to have fun, right? Like, so we're taking this serious, we're doing it serious, but we also, as I'm sure you've picked up by being on our show and us being on your show, we're going to joke around a bit. We're going to have fun. Sure. We have personalities. That's who we are. And we do think that some of the paranormal community doesn't like that. They think that we're not taking it seriously, but we are taking everything we do seriously. But we are friends. We are out there to investigate, to get solid evidence. But funny stuff happens, and we're gonna embrace it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you mess up, we're just going to absolutely make fun of you. Like, this is just the way we are with each other. And some people that are new to the show, like, wow, these guys really hate Dave. And we do, but not as much as we hate Gary.
Yeah.
So I ran out of the room because I wanted to answer one other question, which was about the books. I don't mean to take over the
take over.
But could we answer Rachel's question?
Yeah. Rachel says, do you have any recommendation of books that have either one haunting account or a collection of short account stories of paranormal encounters?
Yeah. I did the same thing. My personal favorites are, my go-to for anytime anyone asks this question is a book called Demonic Foes by Richard Gallagher, MD. And I find this book so fascinating because he is a practicing MD psychiatrist who has a practice. I know it's redundant. I just said he's practicing, but he has a practice, and he was confronted by his friend who said, I got a priest who needs your help on these investigations, on these exorcisms. And this guy, being a medical doctor, said, you sure you want me? And the reason that the priest wanted him was because he wanted him to be able to weed out the people that were experiencing mental illness rather than a demonic possession. So he said, okay, I will sit in on some of these. And you take a guy who was a skeptic, not a skeptic, but basically a scientist who says that the paranormal can't exist, starts going to these exorcisms and writes a book about how blown his mind was about some of the instances that he had. So I can't recommend this book enough. Demonic Foes by Richard Gallagher. He talks about some crazy exorcism that he's seen, and he's talked about some ones that he was actually able to help people with their mental illness. So you get a lot of both sides.
Very cool. Yeah. I've heard of him, and I think that's awesome. And I have a friend who's a Catholic priest who I've met through interviewing him a few times for the shows. But, there is a real criteria to narrowing this down because, of course, mental illness can look like possession and vice versa, And I've often wondered how many people are sitting in asylums or have sat in asylums that actually weren't crazy, but they were just being tormented, by some unseen energy. And it's just,
it's possible. And if the resources aren't there, then they're going to keep them there until they figure out what's wrong with them or try to anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a few books actually. I have,
please.
A few recommendations. This one is, The Horrors of Fox Hollow Farm. So it covers, a serial killer. And then it also goes into, the hauntings that followed inside the house. That one's a real interesting one. That's by Richard Estep, who was actually writing, or it might be Estep, I'm not sure, but he's written a bunch of good ones. The second one is the Sally House Haunting. Highly recommend that one. This is a very good book. And then I have a whole library of them, but these were just four that I grabbed because they covered one. This is all about just one case individual. So if you want to read a whole book about one case, this one was really crazy. This is it's called This House is Haunted by Guy Lyon Playfair, and that covers the Enfield poltergeist out in England, and that case is, this whole thing is like a full walkthrough of almost all of the paranormal investigation that they got over, I think it was 3 years that they lived in this house with this family to collect evidence. And it was absolutely insane, the amount of things that happened there. And then the last one, it's a classic. I think it's actually free on Audible right now if you want to listen to the audio version, but it is the Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. So if you want to go over the
You may
Amityville.
have heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that one's a classic. So you can go check out that one as well. But there's a whole bunch.
Thank you for doing that. Anna Campbell's asking, what is the one thing you wish you had done but didn't do at a location that you investigated?
Left Rob behind.
I was going to say the same thing about both of them.
So much love.
No, I mean, I guess like it's just something I've already said, and it would be just doing the Conjuring House with a smaller team. But I think every time you leave a location and you learn more, as we do, we learn every time we go, then you want to go back and implement that into one of the previous investigations that you did. So there's always something you want to go do again. But sometimes for us, it's just as easy as we wish we got better B-roll footage, or we actually pressed record instead of not pressing record. There's that's
well, even earlier on in the investigations that we did when we first started out, I wish that we maybe were a little bit more patient, because we would go into these haunted locations and we say, this is a haunted house, let's see some hauntings, and we'd be in there 15 minutes and we're like, it's not haunted. But
yeah, patience is key in these things. I mean, every single one of these investigations, we go in with a game plan. And to a point where the last house that we investigated, which we haven't released anything on yet, other than some exclusive stuff for Patreon, was the Winslow House in Marshfield, Massachusetts. And this one, I finally wrote down a plan. I'm like, these are all the things that I really want to not forget to do, and different methods of investigating and different things that I wanted to do in each room. And that helped a little bit, but there isn't a single investigation that we've walked away from where I wasn't punching myself in the forehead like, we forgot to do that.
Sure.
It's forever. But I would recommend making a list, because that definitely helped.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question, Chucky Danger. What's the oldest time period you were able to place a spirit from?
The one that pops to my head, not a place that we've been yet, but when we do some of the research, Chillingham Castle had stuff from the 1200s to the 1300s that make it seem some real bad stuff happened at this particular castle, and the hauntings began shortly after. So, and the hauntings have been persisting to this day. So the one that we've covered for me, I would say, is Chillingham Castle. But again, there's some cultures that predate all of this, that it could be further back than that easily.
Yeah, especially in New England, because there's so much history with Native American, the wars that happened and burial grounds and all that kind of stuff that you hear about all the time. So who knows how far back you could pinpoint something. It's hard for me to say which one, but I think Pavalia had about 1,000 years of history as well, because they used to have they used that island for executions way back in the day.
Oh, sure.
As well as like battles being fought on that island as well. So it's tricky. It's tricky. But pinpointing. Go ahead.
Anytime you have a location where you're finding evidence for the demonic, you're talking about an entity that predates human existence also.
Sure.
So if you want to go that route, if you have demonic evidence, then you're talking very old, ancient.
Yeah. So I would say, to go back to the Conjuring House, it's believed that something demonic is in that house. And if that's what we were communicating with, which at one point in the investigation, it kind of felt like we may have been towing that line, then possibly you're communicating with something ancient. So yeah, I'd say that one probably takes the cake, right?
Maybe.
Didn't they try maybe tried several, but weren't there exorcisms performed on the Conjuring House as well?
I would assume so.
On the actual house, or on people in the house?
Well, both.
I believe.
guess.
Yeah, I believe so. In Andrea Perron's book, they said that they had the house exorcised, and they had the mother was also exorcised in the house. So
yeah, I think that was one where during the exorcism things started getting crazy, and
Roger punched Ed Warren in the face
and made him leave. They left that part out of the movie.
Yeah.
Wow. That's some crazy stuff. I know that that getting to these locations is a lot of work. I mean, you're talking about you guys have gone to Texas. What's the furthest away you've gone on an investigation so far? Was it Texas?
I think so. Yeah, I think Texas was probably the furthest.
How do you
Right? Yeah.
how do you decide on locations as a group? Is it just whatever's available, or is there a criteria?
You don't want to see that group chat.
That group chat, we just yell at each other and insult each other until the last person without their feelings hurt wins.
And the trick is we find a really small room and we all punch each other, and the last man standing decides where we're going to go. So we're going to New York on Sunday.
Oh, fantastic! What was it
Dave
in
won.
New York? What were you going to see?
We're going to the Shanley Hotel in New York.
Oh, okay. That's right. You mentioned that. Over here, I investigated with a friend of mine over at the Davenport Hotel, and that's a pretty fascinating place. It's so beautiful. I don't know if you guys would ever come over this way, but it would be neat to possibly look into places like that. And God, what's that hospital? Oh, it's going to be gone from my head. I lost it, but there's so many locations all over the place. Do you have a limit to how far you guys are willing to go? Is it
No,
just,
no.
Beyond financial limitations.
well, sure. I mean, yeah. Obviously, we're all ruled by our bank accounts in that regard, but
yeah, if we could lock something down, we'll have to head down your way if that's what you're proposing. And
yeah, I think it'd be beautiful.
That'd be sweet. Yeah.
It's
No, we'll travel wherever. And to be honest, our show, we've talked about the listeners and the followers and people that join Patreon. We literally take all of that money. No, we've never pocketed any money from the show. That goes back into us going places, buying better equipment for the show and for investigations. So as long as we continue to get money, the more and more investigations we can do and make sense of it and do conventions and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Our goal is to take Patreon money someday and investigate the moon.
Yes. Yes.
That's so much to ask for.
So we need more Patreon members. Jesse knows how to build a nuclear engine now. We're good.
yeah.
We know how to get this started.
If those in your chat are wondering where this nuclear nonsense comes from, no, I'm not a nuclear physicist, but they troll me because we did an episode on Chernobyl and I decided to spend a good chunk of the episode describing how nuclear reactors work. So this is the joke that will never die.
You had me sold when I was on your show. I was like, God, this guy's a nuclear physicist. Whoa. I was impressed, man.
Wow.
I was like,
he
man,
looks like a
I'm way
moron.
outclassed here.
This is shocking.
What do these other two guys do? Oh my God. It's like going to the prom in your pajamas. I felt like I was outclassed there for a while. But then when I got the punchline, I was like,
Yeah, we have a new profession every week. We decide that we're a meteorologist or we're a nuclear
no,
physicist.
it's not meteorologist. Papa Squash just left it in chat. It is a weather observer.
No, you were the weather observer. I am a full-blown meteorologist.
Gotcha.
Self-proclaimed.
Can't wait till the meteorologist community comes after you for the lack of credentials.
Oh, we got another question in the chat. The Appalachian Mountains seem to be one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. Have you heard of hauntings at homes or businesses? What is your opinion of haunted businesses?
I think
In
they
the Appalachian
just
Mountains, or
I'm not sure. That was kind of
Okay.
a. I'm not sure which she meant, but I guess have you guys investigated other than hotels? Have you investigated businesses?
Not in person, I don't think, but we have covered a few haunted stores. In particular, Salem, Massachusetts has a whole bunch of them that we've checked out and covered. They have a haunted liquor store. They have there's a haunted Harry Potter merchandise store that we covered. And yeah, pretty much every building in Salem, Massachusetts is haunted one way or another, including the businesses.
Yeah. And God, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, there is a ton of haunted places. We covered Dubuque, Iowa.
Oh,
And there's a haunted brothel. That was a business the entire time. And that's a haunted location. So, I mean, I don't think there's rules to what can and can't be haunted if it's a business or not. You don't know what happened in that building, the thesis behind why that particular place is haunted. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. But that's the beauty of the show, too.
sure.
didn't know there was a Dubuque, Iowa. And then I start diving into this location, and I know so much about the town of Dubuque, Iowa now, or, some random place. We do cover big cities as well, but just being able to learn the actual history of every place. And that's one of the things that I tell people when they're like, well, I'm not really into ghost stories. I'm like, well, the thing you should do when you go visit a place is go on a ghost tour.
Sure.
Because you're not going to just learn about the haunted history. You're learning about the history of that place. I went to Nashville in February. I went on a ghost tour, and I learned so much about Nashville in general just from going on that ghost tour.
Sure.
And of course, I learned about the haunted history as well. But
right.
The ghost stories tell the nature of that town. Every town has a ghost story. And that's like our goal, is to tell every town's ghost story by the time we're 95 years old. And we kill Dave. We're going to kill Dave 10 seasons in just to spice it up a bit. But
we'll still prop his dead body up in his chair for the show. Yeah. Change any of that up.
Yeah. You can
chemistry is chemistry.
Just channel him back every once in a while. Yeah, you won't be forgotten, Dave. Thank you. A rare IPA you never heard of has a $5 donation. Thank you so much. I know we've had a couple throughout the show, and thank you guys for that. But he says hometown science stories. Sounds like he's coming up with another spinoff for you guys.
Yep. This is par for the course for a rare IPA you've never heard of. I made the mistake one day of drinking a Miller Lite on stream, allegedly, and I've never heard the end of it.
Is that why? That's why he's got it for his chat icon.
That's why. It's
exactly.
I've never heard of it.
That's good.
It's another one I'll never live down.
Well, and why should you? Let's get to the next question. Chucky Danger, have you thought about doing an investigation of a giant burial mound or the serpent mounds?
That's interesting. I went to a burial. I don't know if you'd call it. I don't know if there's a different definition of burial mound, but last time I was in Greece, there was a tomb that they found in a mound. Am I talking about two different things? What is a burial mound?
Well, I think it has to do with where they believe Native Americans had burial mounds where they interred their dead, but some people have speculated that these are giants, perhaps predating the Native Americans that are underneath these burial mounds, and so I think that's where he's going with it. But
okay, scratch that. Haven't been to a burial mound.
Okay, what were you going to say?
But those sound awesome. Oh, I went to, it was, I was in Greece. There was this, it looked like just a big pile of earth.
Okay.
And it turns out that one guy decided to dig, and he found the tomb of King Philip. I believe it was King Philip. I might be getting that wrong. It was the father of Alexander the Great. And they found his tomb all gold and jewels and, like you would find in a tomb. So while we were there, we visited that, but apparently that's not what we're talking about. Not a giant, just a king.
Well, kings are pretty giant in some
one of the coolest museums I've ever been to, though.
Oh,
because they left it all in the mound, so you just go into the mound and check it all out. So pretty cool.
That is awesome. And then next up, Rachel gets it right. She did say yes in the Appalachian Mountain hauntings. So any businesses?
There's an abandoned theme park that's haunted. That's in Maggie Valley of North Carolina. Yeah. We haven't covered it on our show yet, but that is a business in Appalachia that is considered to be haunted. So that's going in my list of places to cover. But I think that when you look at the Appalachian Mountains, you have a large amount of very ancient stone that could possibly be retaining a whole bunch of energy, haunted energy. So I think theoretically, yes, and probably, and there definitely are some businesses out there that are haunted that we will be looking into.
Yeah, sky's the limit, guys. I mean, you can go pretty much anywhere you want, and you could pretty much probably just go anywhere and throw a rock in any direction, and you're probably hitting something that's haunted.
Yeah, you can just go into, pick a town, walk into a diner or a bar, and start asking around, and I would be shocked if less than 50% of the people didn't have a ghost story. Like everyone's got a ghost story everywhere you go. I mean, Rob went out to Block Island, just wore his hometown ghost story shirt, and people were just stopping him in the street to tell him all their ghost stories.
Yeah, I was on the ferry over there. I think by the time I landed, 5 people had come to tell me their ghost story. Then just everywhere I went in town, they're like, "Do you do a ghost show?" I'm like, "Yep." They go, "You here filming something on Block Island?" And everyone was coming over to tell ghost stories. Literally everyone. It was great because you you learn so much about a place. I selfishly went to Block Island that day because I was like, what's a place I can cover, but I can go on like a mini day vacation for myself. So I went there not expecting to find much. The people from Block Island Ghost Tours were amazing. They brought me around. They showed me a bunch of stuff. And Block Island, Rhode Island is one of the most haunted places and most beautiful places you can go to. So if you ever get over there, definitely take the Block Island Ghost Tour because they will tell you all about the hauntings and the Palatine. And it's an amazing one. It's one of the episodes of ours you should go check out. You should go listen to all of our episodes.
You should.
That one
Twice.
in particular.
Twice.
Yes.
And Block Island's definitely on the short list of places that we'll go back to. Actually, we got some stuff coming up that we'll probably go back out there. But they were very accommodating over there as well. They gave us like a car and a house. So
Wow.
now they've set the bar for when we come down to investigate with you. All right, we want maybe 2 cars, 2 houses.
You're going to have to sign your house over to us and your cars, and then we will do a 5-minute investigation with you.
Absolutely. What if I told you I live in a tent? But I'm willing to move out for you guys.
As long as we could tell people that when we got there, you gave us your house.
Yeah,
We
sure.
don't have to talk about the logistics of how nice it was.
Yes.
Absolutely. David Zeismer asks, have you ever investigated Minnesota? Oh, thank you, Eliza.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
We haven't investigated. We've covered. So there's a difference between what we've covered and investigated. But we do have at least one Minnesota episode, but we have not been out there.
Is that the Glen Sheen Mansion?
I believe so.
Minnesota? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We have covered it.
You've
Whether or
covered
not
it
it was
on the
Glen
show.
Sheen never means to be Sheen, but it was.
Oh my God.
But yeah,
There's one place in Minnesota I want to get to as well, and that was I had the lady, the owner. She came on the show on the podcast. She's the owner of the Boyd House, and I know several of the shows have gone through there. But a really nice lady, and it sounds like, I mean, she's very accommodating and very reasonable as well. So I'm hoping this summer to get over there. And like I said, I'll extend the olive branch to you guys if you can make it. If I can secure that, you're welcome to join me. That'd be a lot of fun.
I don't think we've been banned in Minnesota yet, so I think we can make that happen.
Well,
as soon as Rob steps foot in Ohio, he's gonna have a band of people waiting
I know.
to demand some answers out of him.
Ohio is the worst state in the country.
I'll tell you what, Ohio is one of those that's it always comes up in every phenomena that in the paranormal. It's like, oh, Ohio, yeah, they got the Grassman, they got UFO stuff, and they got so much paranormal and haunting stuff. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on in Ohio.
We joke about it, but like Ohio has some of the best hauntings like in the country.
Oh yeah,
So,
crazy.
The kicker is you got to go to
So
Ohio.
Ohio, yeah, it's a whole thing.
I heard nice things about Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, yeah, I'm sure it's wonderful. I don't think I've been there, but gentlemen, we got about a minute left. Can you take a minute and let people know how to stay in touch with you and what you're doing?
Yeah, so hometownghoststories.com. You can find the podcast everywhere, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on YouTube as well, so you can search the videos. We do put a lot of work into the video portion, so if people can do that, then connect with us. But yeah, we're
You can join us live on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. You can be part of our chat as well. Don't stop listening to Paranormal Portal.
Yeah.
Because this is an amazing show as well. But our nights don't overlap. You can come join us Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. You can join our Discord as well. And our Patreon has some exclusive stuff on it as well.
Well, fantastic, guys. It's been an absolute blast having you here. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the journey. I really appreciate your time and your companionship, keeping me company here.
Dude, you're a legend. This has been great. It's fun to just sit around and just talk about ghosts for a long time, man. It's awesome.
Anytime we'll come back as long as your chat doesn't ban us.
No, they love you guys. I mean, they were coming up with tons of questions for you, so I guess you've earned their seal of approval as well. But yeah, we'll keep doing crossover shows and stay in each other's sphere of activity, and by God, we're going to do some amazing things in the future. I can tell.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's link up. Let's do an investigation.
I like that idea. I really do. I'm very sincere about that. So I hope you guys are as well, because that would be a blast.
Absolutely.
Plus, I think you have more toys than I have.
Maybe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Guys, stick around. Don't disconnect if you have a few minutes. and we'll connect after the show. But this is going to wrap up our journey here on the Paranormal Portal tonight. Hope you guys had a good time. Obviously, this is a great night. 3 guests, wonderful guests, amazing discussion. So remember to let people know about the Paranormal Portal. And remember to subscribe if you're brand new. Love to have you stick around here as well and become part of what we're doing. We're willing to share audiences. That's okay. You're not cheating on either one of us. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, take care. Remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.